All right, let's talk about something that is, well, it's incredibly tough. End-of-life care. It's one of those things that touches all of us at some point, right? Whether you're a patient, a family member, or even a doctor or nurse on the front lines. It is just so personal, so emotional, and honestly filled with really, really hard questions. So today, what we're going to do is walk through an ethical framework, a way of thinking that can hopefully bring some clarity when things feel the most confusing.
And this quote right here, it just cuts straight to the core of it, doesn't it? That thought, that fear, that pulling the plug feels like you're the one, well, you know. It's a heavy, heavy weight that so many families feel in those quiet hospital rooms. And let's be clear, this isn't some abstract ethical puzzle. This is a real person, a wife, standing by her husband's bed, wrestling with this awful dilemma.
So the big question is she right? Is it the same thing? That's what we're really here to figure out. And to do that, we have to kind of step back from the raw emotion for just a second and look at the actual ethical principles. We're going to use a specific case to help guide us through it.
Okay, so here's the situation we're looking at. We have a 52-year-old man who was in a terrible accident. He's been in a coma on a respirator for 8 long months. The doctors, they've basically said there's no hope for him to ever recover. And you can just imagine, the family is completely drained, emotionally, financially, just everything. The medical team has suggested that maybe, just maybe, removing the respirator is the kindest thing they can do.
So where do you even start with a choice like that? It feels impossible, right? Well, the ethical approach we're talking about says the first step, the key to finding some clarity here, is to make one really, really important distinction. It's a distinction that can change how you see the whole problem. And here it is. This is the big idea. There's a huge difference between prolonging life and prolonging the process of dying. Think about it. When you're using technology to help someone get better, to have more meaningful time, that's prolonging life. But when there's no chance of recovery, is the technology still prolonging life, or is it just stretching out the very last stage? In this case, the respirator isn't healing him. It's just pausing the inevitable. It's holding back a natural process that has already begun. Okay, this next point is maybe the most important one of all, and it can be a little hard to wrap your head around at first. The argument is this. Withdrawing the support is not what actually causes the person's death. It's a total shift in perspective. I know that sounds strange, so let's walk through the logic step by step. So let's break it down. Step 1. What's the real cause of the situation? It's the accident, the severe, irreversible damage that it caused. That's what started everything. Step 2 is the action, removing the respirator. But here's the thing. That action doesn't create a new problem. All it does is remove an artificial barrier that was holding things back. And the result? The natural process, which was already underway because of the accident, is simply allowed to finish. You know, there's actually a term for this in medical ethics. It's called extraordinary means. And that doesn't mean the technology is super fancy or rare. It's all about what the technology is actually doing. If a treatment is just creating a huge burden, physically, emotionally, for everyone involved, and there's no reasonable hope it's going to lead to a recovery, then it's considered extraordinary. Okay, so let's put all the pieces together. What this framework tells us is that a decision to withdraw support can be ethically justified. It can be the right thing to do when a few things are true. First, there's just no hope of getting better. Second, the treatment itself has become more of a burden than a benefit. And third, and this is key, the goal isn't to end a life, but to stop interfering with the end of a life that is already naturally coming to a close. And that brings us back to the wife at the very beginning and her terrible, agonizing question. The conclusion of this ethical framework is powerful. In a situation like this, she cannot be considered guilty of killing her husband. What she is doing is not killing. It's an act of compassion. It's a decision to let go, to stop prolonging the dying process, and to finally allow her husband to be at peace. So, having a framework like this is a huge help when you're in the middle of a crisis. But it kind of leaves us with one last, really important question, doesn't it? A question for all of us, for our own lives. How do we start these conversations now? How do we let our families know what we would want before we're ever in a situation like this, so they don't have to make these gut-wrenching choices all alone? Honestly, having that talk today might be one of the kindest things we can ever do for the people we love.